This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some big update to share with you. Whitehouse is considering sending out gas rebate cards. They're also considering the gas tax holiday. I'll give you the details on that. Plus $200 and $500 checks could go out to millions of Americans. And also the $2,000 stimulus check. We'll talk about that. And the White House economic advisor is saying tax the rich and pass a prescription drug bill, as well as a few other solutions to help out with inflation. And I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a more than mundane Monday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below, and I'm giving $200 to my subscribers. I'll talk more about that later on in the video. And also, I forgot to wish everybody a happy Father's Day in yesterday's video. I usually make my videos early in the morning before anybody wakes up, and totally forgot it was Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to everybody out there. I hope you had a good day. So let's get into it. So in a rare moment of goodwill, Trump expressed concern for President Joe Biden after he fell off his bicycle, saying, "I hope he's okay." So that was actually pretty nice of former President Trump to wish that President Biden was okay after falling. If you haven't seen him fall yet, take a quick look at this video clip right here.
Woo! Hey, Joe! All right! Hey, now! Woo!
For almost being 80, pretty good condition to fall down and get right back up. Let me know your thoughts on that. Do you think he is okay? Let me know your thoughts. So when it comes to money going out to Americans, let's talk about that. White House considering sending gas rebate cards to Americans, according to a report. Biden administration emphasized it's willing to consider any and all solutions to ongoing inflation crisis. So there's a lot of different options that are going around and a lot of talk, but it seems like there's not enough action. So yes, the White House is reportedly floating the idea that gas rebates for the U.S. residents could be due to high record gas prices. The president has made clear that he is willing to explore all options and hear all ideas that would help lower gas prices for the American people. So this could be a solution, but also the White House will Biden embrace a gas tax holiday? So we're hearing a lot of different things. Gas tax holiday, we're hearing gas rebate cards, a lot of talk, but yet nothing is going on. So Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Sunday maintained that an economic downturn is not inevitable, but conceded that the administration is looking into instituting a temporary gas tax holiday to provide relief, albeit on a temporary basis. So this could be, according to Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, a temporary gas tax holiday to help bring down the price of gas. So a federal gas tax holiday, meaning that everybody would benefit. We've seen this happen in certain states on a state-by-state basis, where somebody could save maybe 16 to 30 cents per gallon in one state, but could this be done on a federal level? Potentially. That's what we're hearing here. As gas prices continuing to go up, and I've even heard it could even go up to $7 over the summer, according to one report, which is crazy. And also, pandemic-era checks rewired how these Americans see money. Stimulus changed how we think about what is possible. Pandemic-era stimulus checks helped many Americans pay bills, reduce debt, build savings. For some, the payments altered how they think about money. The stimulus changed how I think about what's possible, personal spending habits, and the way in which I manage my money. So basically, what it's talking about in this article is how people benefited from stimulus checks and how they used it. So if we look at this chart right here, you could see that the black is the first stimulus check, the blue is the second stimulus check, and third is this light blue is the third stimulus check, how everybody used it. Basically with food, it was 70% food. So you can see this, utilities, household, personal care products. So if I just click on the first stimulus check, this is the percentage of what people use to pay their bills. If we look at the second stimulus check in blue here, all right, so 57% on food, and you can see, so the majority of the money was spent on food, then utilities, then house care products, then paying debt. Basically the same for the third one as well, if I highlight that. So basically this article is talking about how people benefited from stimulus checks. There's a few other charts and stuff here as well. Pretty interesting. Basically, the point is that people need more stimulus checks due to inflation, higher cost, fixed income, low income, that people need more help. So we look at this article here. Millions of Americans could get $2,000 payment as state tries to spend funds before it goes back to federal government. So this is going on in Pennsylvania, and it's very similar to what's going on on the federal level as well. So Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf wants to send out $2,000 stimulus checks because there's $2 billion sitting in an account that was designated for COVID relief funds, and if they don't spend it, it goes back to the federal government. So basically, Tom Wolf wants to send out $2,000 stimulus checks. Is that a good idea? Basically, on another level, on the federal level here, we have unspent funds, color debate over additional pandemic relief. So this is an older article, but it's saying that there is $800 billion remains unspent or uncommitted, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, a think tank, though those figures are reported with a lag. So there's 800 billion, could probably a little less at this point, but still enough for multiple, or it could be at least, with 800 billion, it could be a $2,800 stimulus check. If it's less, maybe around 600 billion, it could be like a $2,000 stimulus check to everybody who got the $1,400 check before. Should this happen? Is this a good idea? As Bernie Sanders said in the past, Bernie Sanders presses Joe Biden on $2,000 stimulus checks, saying promises must be kept. A lot of people are suffering. A lot of people on fixed income and low income just simply can't afford all the prices, the higher prices of food, higher prices of gas, as well as other issues of cost of living. Everything is just getting way too expensive, and this would be the prime time to send out a stimulus check, especially right before the midterm election. So will we see that happen? I'll keep you updated on that. When it comes to a state level, millions of Americans on track to get at least $200 in tax rebates as plan approved. So this is going on. Lawmakers have greenlighted a plan that would send at least $200 worth of cash to taxpayers. So the state assembly and Senate in California passed a budget plan on Monday that amounts to a total of $300 billion. It consists of $800 billion worth of tax rebates, which would give each eligible taxpayer and dependent $200. So in California, looks like another round of checks going out, $200 per individual plus $200 per dependent. So saying here, a family of 5 could get up to $1,000 there. Then in Colorado, millions to get $500 stimulus checks by September. See if you're eligible for the cash. So this is going on in Colorado, and residents will receive their rebate in August or September if they file their 2021 tax return by June 30th. So just 10 days left for that to get a $500 check in Colorado. And then when it comes to back to a federal level, what is being done? What are the solutions with high inflation? So tax the rich and pass a prescription drug bill. Whitehouse economic advisor Brian Dees proposes ways to make a real difference on unacceptable inflation levels. So we're constantly hearing a lot of different things saying, oh, it's inflation is going to go down. We're working on it. Take a look at what Brian Dees, the White House economic advisor, has to say about solutions for inflation.
And joining us here in Washington, Brian Dees, director of the National Economic Council. Brian, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Good to have you.
Happy to be here.
Okay, so let's look at some of the polling and seeing how Americans are feeling about the economy this morning. Fox News asked, do you feel optimistic or pessimistic? 32% optimistic, 65% pessimistic. And that has been, tracking the numbers, unfortunately, moving in the wrong direction. The condition of the economy, 82% of people say it's only fair or poor. And then we asked people a personal question. How is this impacting you and buying things like gas prices? 90% say it's a problem for them. 88% say grocery prices. Utility costs, 81%. The president this week asked Americans to have confidence in the economy. They clearly don't, though.
Well, look, we get it. When you drive up to the pump and you see the prices that we have today, it creates uncertainty and it creates real economic hardship. But at the same time, it is important as Americans that we recognize the unique strengths that we have in this economy. The strongest labor market since World War II, unemployment at 3.6%, household balance sheets that have repaired over the course of the last year. So we now have the lowest mortgage delinquencies in 15 years, the lowest credit card delinquencies in 30 years. Those are sources of strength that are unique to the American economy. We have a stronger and better position to tackle inflation than almost any other country around the world, but that's what we need to do now. And the president has made very clear that fighting inflation, bringing down prices, is his top economic priority. He's using the tools that he has, and he's calling on Congress to pass legislation that would help to accelerate this process of bringing down prices without giving up all of the economic gains that we've made.
So Bloomberg reporting on this advanced negotiations that you have going on with folks on Capitol Hill, Democrats, this name that always comes up as a fly in the ointment for you guys, which is Senator Joe Manchin. He's actually getting praise from people across the political spectrum for blocking Build Back Better, as even the Fed has said that contributed to inflation potentially to the tune of 3 percentage points. How is this going to factor in for you now with Manchin and these new negotiations? What can you get done?
Well, I'm going to leave the negotiations where they are, not talk about them here. But what I'll say substantively is what are we talking about right now? We're talking about some concrete measures to lower costs that typical families are facing. Take Medicare prescription drugs. We can lower those costs by allowing Medicare to negotiate for better prices. That actually reduces federal spending and reduces costs paid by consumers. Lowering energy bills, utility bills with common sense tax credits, and reducing the deficit. Reducing the deficit with long overdue tax reform. Economists across the spectrum agree that if we take those steps, it'll be complementary to what the Fed is trying to do. Not only help to lower prices, but also send a signal to the market and the world that the United States is focused on this issue and is committed to bringing prices down, again, without giving up all of the extraordinary economic gains that we've made.
So what's a timeline for getting those things to a vote? We have an August recess coming. We have midterms coming that could potentially change the makeup of what you all control on Capitol Hill and can get done.
Well, those conversations are happening. I'm going to leave them to the leadership. What I would say is we're hopeful, and we really want to see something move here in the short term. Because, again, this is not just about enacting legislation. It's about giving some relief to families right now and sending a signal that not just the president and the Federal Reserve, but Congress recognize that fighting inflation needs to be our top priority.
Okay, so let's talk about the possibility of recession. It continues to seem to be a growing real possibility. Steve Ratner, who was part of the Obama-Biden administration, said the Fed is going to hike interest rates. Obviously, that has happened. But he said to get from where we are back to that goal of 2% inflation, the Fed's never done it without a recession. Now, he's not the only one talking about this. Growing number of U.S. CEOs also think that is the problem. The Wall Street Journal reporting this. It says more than 60% of CEOs expect a recession in their geographic region in the next 12 to 18 months. And they go on to say that a business research team finds that an additional 15% think that the region of the world where their company operates is already in a recession. So 75% of top business executives think we're there or we're about to be there.
Well, look, a lot of things about the economy right now are unique. We've also never been in a situation where we've had 3.6% unemployment and the record level of job openings, 11 million job openings right now, which means there's a lot of incumbent strength in the labor market that puts us in a good position. But I talked with CEOs this week from sectors across the American economy, and what I hear from them is that we are moving through a transition. Americans are spending less money on goods at home. They're spending more money on services. For some companies, that's a real challenge. For others, it's an opportunity. The housing market is recalibrating after record home price increases, which have meant, by the way, if you're a typical homeowner, you have probably $50,000, $60,000 in additional equity in your home. But we need to bring those house price increases down, and that's going to filter through the economy. But as we move through this transition, not only is a recession not inevitable, but what we as policymakers can do is take steps to build on our unique strengths in the American economy and try to get to that stable and steady growth that we all want to get to as quickly as possible. So when you hear us talking about these policy measures, it's because what we can do right now is send a signal that we all get it, that inflation has to be our top economic priority, but there are things that we can do. There are tools that we can deploy. There's steps that we can take right now.
So let's talk about the issue of taking responsibility. Here's what the president said back in 2020 during the campaign. He said, it's hard to believe that this has to be said, but unlike this president, referencing President Trump, I'll do my job and take responsibility. I won't blame others. In fact, it was a hallmark of his campaign. Here's a bit of his campaign ad to that point.
The buck stops here. Harry Truman said it. It means no excuses. It means taking responsibility, the ultimate responsibility for the biggest decisions in the world.
New York Post opinion piece put it this way this week. They said Biden alternates between claiming credit for everything good that happens in America and swearing to be an innocent bystander to an economy going off the rails. So does the buck stop with the president or not?
Of course it does, and I think you've seen this president consistently stand up and give it straight to the American people, explain to them the challenges and the opportunities, and importantly, his plan going forward. You know, when Putin began amassing troops on the Ukrainian border, the president stood up and said clearly, this war will not be without costs, but we must defend democracy. We must hold the Western order, and Democrats and Republicans stood with him as well. Now he is saying we have global economic challenges. We have energy prices that are set globally. That's not an excuse. That's a reason why we need to focus on the steps that we can take here at home to produce more supply of energy in the short term and also provide some relief to American families in the short term as well.
So let's talk about that, because the president has taken aim at President Putin. He has, and by the way, inflation was fourfold from when he took office to when the invasion of Ukraine began. But now he's going after the oil companies at a time when you all need to be working together. It appears to be a bit antagonistic at this point. Here is what he said to fossil fuel companies, to oil companies on the campaign trail back in 2019. This was his message.
I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate with it, okay?
Okay, you are a numbers guy. Would any sane executive invest tens of billions of dollars into infrastructure that the president has said he's going to destroy?
Well, let's talk about some numbers first. Today, America is the largest producer of oil and gas in the world. This month, we're producing 12 million barrels of oil. That's higher than the average under the prior president.
Well, actually, 2019 was the peak.
2019 was the peak. It then came down precipitously during COVID and has now come back. But we are a net exporter of oil. We actually produce more oil than we consume, and we send the rest.
Let me stop you there and give you a chance to answer this, because Yahoo Finance has a real in-depth piece about this, and their headline is "The Myth of Energy Independence." They say, with regard to oil, the main component in gasoline, the U.S. consumes more than it produces. Flatly stated, the U.S. is not oil independent in terms of raw crude, and I know there are a lot of different definitions we could use here. The U.S. has long been a net importer. They say it still is.
Well, there's a lot of different definitions and types of crude. The reality is we are a net exporter of oil, but more important than that for the immediate term is what we can do to increase supply. As you said, supply came down precipitously during COVID. We want to see that come back and come back online. In the near term, the companies have a very powerful market incentive. Prices are high and their profit and profit margins are high. And what we are encouraging is that they take those and put those profits to work to increase production. But over the medium term, this is very important. The president's policy has always been a transition to clean energy. And that means building on the strengths of our energy system and also following the science. And the science shows that even with very ambitious climate targets that this president is committed to, oil will continue to be a part of our economic equation this decade and the next. They have a medium-term incentive to invest as well. And in fact, many of those companies have committed to that same transition. Many of those companies have similar net zero targets. So what we are encouraging, and the President's Secretary of Energy will be meeting with companies over the course of this week, is let's get pragmatic steps in the near term. You know, the Dallas Fed did an interesting study. They asked all of these energy executives, what is keeping you from doing this? 94% of them said something other than government regulations. But what we're saying is if there are places where the federal government can take a practical and responsible step in the immediate term, we're open. We're open to hearing them.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on what Brian Dees has to say? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I tell you the one thing that you should do. When you feel something and you don't really feel good, then be grateful what you have. Be thankful. Because the next day it might not be there. So, that's what I wanted to say. True or false? Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your time and support. Don't forget, I'm giving out $200 checks in just a couple of days, so you still have some time if you haven't already to sign up. Details down in the description below. Also, had a great Father's Day. Spent some time with family, spent some time with the girls, did some family stuff, and yeah, got to relax a little more, which is pretty cool. So hopefully you had a great weekend. If you want to check out any of my other videos, especially my latest pickleball video, you could click up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.